Welcome to my awesome health journey. I'm Brett Dupree, and I've been thinking a lot of being in my body and practice. Mostly because they talk about that in yoga a lot. In fact, the one I'm going to at 10:30 today talks about being in yoga as a way to um, relax the mind and getting into your body. But um, I don't know. I maybe it is my ADHD brain, and I've noticed that it's different. I don't really get that from yoga. In fact, anytime I do relax my mind, I just get more thoughts. Thoughts just don't stop in my brain. Um, for me, being thoughtless is acting without speaking in my brain first. That feels thoughtless to me in particularly. Just sitting there without thought. I was having a talk with my, I guess, cousin. Practical cousin or cousin-in-law. Practically my cousin's partner about, you know, how they can't really meditate and just, having a talk with how our brains work, which is my favorite thing. And the idea of that is like I don't know how to go to sleep. I'm 47 years old and I still don't know how to fall asleep on purpose. I fall asleep by distracting myself from sleep and then it happens. I feel like every night I accidentally fall asleep, and that's how I learned to fall asleep. I learned to fall asleep by doing it by accident. Every time I actually tried to meditate, I fell asleep. In fact, the only time I felt I was ever effective at meditating was when I was unemployed for practically a year with getting a couple of jobs and then them not working out. Is I was just so freaked out about being homeless, and by homeless I mean having to move in with my parents or some friends. And let's be honest, it's like 40 something that still feels like a failure in this capitalistic society. And I am blessed that I have enough people who are close to me and care for me and are in a good enough spot to make sure I don't go homeless, like truly homeless. And I am not too prideful not to ask for help, and a good enough relationship. So I am blessed. A lot of people aren't, and I think that's why a lot of people become homeless. Is just the society where we just separate ourselves from our family and our close ones and become too prideful to ask for help. But being on the streets is traumatizing, and I guess this is not what that's about. But during that time, I meditated twice a day, but I don't really think it was the meditation that helped. It was more the relaxing techniques that just allowed me to reduce the cortisol in my body, to allow me then to do the actions that I needed to, look for work and do things to distract myself from the upcoming potential of homelessness that I was going through at that time. That was one of the worst years of my life. That was so hard. That was 10 years ago, actually. Why I missed my 20th year reunion. That year was awful. 2016 was probably one of my worst years of my life. But also walking. I did a walking every day as well, which I feel is one of my best forms of meditation. But at the same time, that's when my mind flows. So, I saw this question today by one of the people I follow who I've met about yoga, and it's like, if it wasn't for the poses, would I still have practice? And the answer is no. I don't get that from yoga. I don't get being in my body. But I also think that's a practice that I need to do all the time because I have the tendency to disassociate when there are problems. That's how I dealt with my problems all my life. It's kind of disassociating and trying to imagine a better world and living in that better world, but not doing the actions to cause that better world to happen and just ignoring all my issues. And that just led me to spending too much, eating too much, and not taking care of myself the way I should. And just it never works out. And so that's what I've learned in my health journey lately, is to always embrace the reality of my life. I mentioned this multiple times. That's why when I talk about my progress, I always talk about how far I still need to go, because I don't want to lie to myself and tell myself I'm at a stopping point. I am still 350 pounds. I'm not even close to where I want to be. I'm better than what I was, and I'm happy for that. I'm always happy for that. But I don't want to try to create a delusion where I am not where I am. What the sad part is the thing I've realized though is to be successful, you have to be delusional, because you have to be able to look for a future that that has a good chance of not happening. There is a very good chance that I don't reach my health goals. Many things can happen. I can lose my medication. I can lose my job. I can get cancer just randomly. There's so many things that can happen, that would hurt my chances. Losing my job would hurt my chances. The thing I've noticed, mostly, is just having steady employment has done so much for my mental and physical health. And like every time especially with my tendency to disassociate and then look for things to get that dopamine rush, and the constant struggle of having to find a job as a contractor, and just no, I'm not that good at it, especially with my social anxiety back then, is that cycle wouldn't help my cycle of binge eating and losing, binge eating, losing, binge eating, and losing. One thing that's really helped me stabilize is being relatively stable. And I say relatively stable because I've been feeling like I've been gonna get laid off since like 2022 now, when things started really taking a downturn in healthcare. Like 2020 was actually kind of bad, but they were so afraid about losing people. But once 2022, when the backlash to the working class getting a little uppity, according to our rich overlords, and then doing all their layoffs, and they're continuing to do that in the last 4 years. And so there's part of me thinks I'm going to be laid off in June, but then again, I thought I was going to be laid off at the beginning of this year. I thought I was going to be laid off last June. I thought I got less. So like every time that has happened, and if I believe in the law of attraction, me believing it will achieve it, but everyone knows that's BS. What matters is that with this coming thought process, that I'm doing enough in my normal life to help mitigate what happens afterwards, and just prepare myself mentally and physically, and not prepare myself by imagining it happening. That's a different anxiety response that I used to do. I didn't realize it was anxiety response. I always thought it was me just being smart and preparing myself for what's worse, but in reality that's an anxiety response, and it doesn't help. Thinking of the worst thing that happened to you and imagining that worst thing happening to you so it'll lessen the impact never lessens the impact. It just makes you feel bad now. But at the same time, imagining the worst thing is possible and preparing yourself for that, that's just proper planning. Not becoming obsessed with it, but also realizing the best thing can happen as well, and being delusional that the best thing's gonna happen. So you do the actions that the best things are going to happen. That's why I'm going to yoga at 10:30, because if I was 100% fearful of being laid off, I would stop everything that I'm doing that's positive and put all my money away, and try not live my life and not enjoy my life, so I have money till I find my new job. But I also need to be healthier. I need to work on my mental health and physical health as well. And that's really important. So I guess I don't really know where I'm going with this on a whole, but I think what I'm talking about mostly is I think life is recognizing what is happening at the present moment and dealing with those emotions and dealing with how you feel with that, looking at the possible negative future and preparing for that, and also being delusional that the best possible thing is going to happen, so you do the actions so that happens. Because I think the best way to live is accepting reality and being optimistic for the best future if you continue to do the positive things now, and be prepared that if the worst thing happens, that you can deal with it, because the worst thing can happen at any time, and it's your ability to deal with it that's important. And that's what I'm working on with myself, is being the best version of me that I can be, and that's the way I just want to live my life. And so I guess that's what I'm talking about. Love you for who you are. Thank you for watching. As always, you are worthy.